right, well, this is the Big Friendly Swim podcast. I'm Ahmed, and today we're sitting down with an Egyptian national team member, Youssef El-Kamash. How are you?
Good, are you, Ahmed? It's finally nice to join you. I know it's been a little while since we've been trying to connect, and I'm glad we found the time to talk. So I'm excited to
So,
be here.
it's all good, man. Better late than never. So, just to start things off, give us some history of your time in swimming and where you were at and where you're at today.
Yeah, sure. So I started swimming a long time ago. I'm 28. I'm almost 29 now. As far as I remember, maybe 6 or 7. So the past 23 years I've been swimming, and I've seen it all. Grew up in Egypt. Swimming is a big sport there, but it's not a big sport at the same time. If that makes sense. It definitely not a popular sport, but there's a lot of swimmers in Egypt. There's a lot of pools, so you can go anywhere and like learn how to swim. My mom put me and my brothers in the sport just because she wanted us to learn how to swim. She did not know how to swim, and she wanted her kids to do the things she couldn't do. So it wasn't like we were all hyped up about or excited about. It might sound funny. Egypt is not, it might sound like it's a very hot environment, but in the winter it's very cold. And me and my brothers are just, three skinny boys who don't like the cold winter and like, swimming outdoors mainly is the thing in Egypt. So it was a lot of crying and like not wanting to go, to the pool. But it's the resilience that my mom had more than us, to be honest, to just put us in the sport, kind of force us in the sport, which wasn't a bad force. It's just like, this will make you good. And, swam, learn how to swim, age 6 through 10. And then we start competing, I guess, at age 11. And we just never stopped, or at least I did not stop.
So, talk to me about that experience competing and practicing in Egypt. It's something I've always been interested to learn more about is how practices and how teams are run in other countries. And then talk to me about some of your favorite memories as you started getting onto that national team and as you started going on those national team trips.
Yeah, for sure. So like swimming in Egypt, it's interesting because I've been living here in the States for 12 years, maybe 11, mostly yeah, 11. But it's different. There's not like a lot of knowledge in this, the swim community in Egypt. So I'm not trying to offend the coaches there or anything, but then the knowledge of the sport is not. It's almost like not there. We just try to copycat what the West is doing or like what other European teams doing or all that stuff. So I feel like it was good, but it was just good to a certain extent. Um, in terms of going certain times or achieving certain goals, uh, it wasn't like very. I swam with a lot of coaches. Some of them are like really good friends of mine. Some of them I just swam like temporary with, but it was the type of programs that they use is it's way too different. They focus more on quantity over quality, and that's the thing that I think was not great in Egypt. It's just like doing the sport. But yeah, it's definitely like was a lot of yardage. It's just like they used to have a lot of Russian coaches, and they have that kind of Russian mindset of like just putting a lot of yardage in the practices. Uh, I did not make a national team until I was 18, I think. That's probably 11 years ago. My first team was World Juniors in Dubai. That was, I think, the second World Juniors they've had. But then I went to the US after, and like my experience before swimming, in Egypt and then like in the US is completely different. I started, and also like I'm not trying to blame coaches in Egypt, to just to make a better sense of this. I'm just saying the environment is not very perfect, for a swimmer, even though it's really resourceful. Like you have all the resources you need to become a good swimmer, but it's just like there wasn't any quality work. Programs are not aligned. School in Egypt is way harder, in my opinion. To make that balance was very hard, especially in high school. High schools are very hard in Egypt. Again, as I travel and do that transition into the U.S. and like start my college swimming, and just college in general was a lot different. And it was like you know you go from the bottom and like instantly you go to 100, and like, oh, I was doing things wrong, and like you also get it does um it does with your self discipline, when it comes to like wanting to become a better swimmer, and like actually believe that you can go certain times that other swimmers all over the world can go, or like be as fast as these people that were like whenever I swam, it was like, oh, there's no way I can swim at this level, because like they set the bar very low. um it's not like you're setting really high and like aiming for the best. I think that's also a problem there. For us, it's just like if you make a world championships or the Olympics, it was just like, okay, that's it. You're pretty set in stone, and like you don't need to do more. That's it. That's the highest you can achieve. But we've seen it like um, for especially people who started going to the U.S. and like pursuing their college swimming. We've seen them like accomplish a lot of stuff that I think it was great. One of them was my brother Marwan. Like he started swimming, I think a year, but he's a year older than me. And he started swimming in the U.S. And that's when he started dropping a lot of time, and then suddenly everybody wants to just go to the U.S. and like study and swim there. And like I think we have a fair amount of a fair number of swimmers who actually like swims in the U.S. or came to swim in the U.S. and they accomplished a lot. So again, it's just like it's a totally different experience from like swimming in Egypt and like swimming in the US. There's more structure to what you do here. There's pretty much nothing. It's just more like swim, and that kind of works mentality. You can still accomplish and achieve certain goals, but it's definitely not as precise as like working with a structure, and like having a better balance between school and like swimming, and like understanding the value of technique and skills and drills that will make you improve. Um, yeah, that's as far as like different experience. If you're comparing experiences, I'm not sure if that answers your question, but like that's pretty much just how I guess the
No, that
question.
that does answer it really well. Actually, I think it's interesting because the U.S. has kind of become like this melting pot of athletes from all over the world are coming, and even coaches from around the world. There's a lot of international coaches here too. And you talked about like Egyptian swimmers doing really well. It reminded me of Farida Osman in 2017 and 2019 won bronze in the 50 fly
Yeah,
at Worlds, and I
yeah,
think she was the first Egyptian medalist at Worlds.
yeah. She made history. She did this back in 2017, and she did it again in 2019, I think. I mean, she made history for us. So she's a great swimmer. And again, she swam a Cal, and like uh, she was a really good swimmer when she was in Egypt, though. But then I think back then when she swam in Egypt, she had a European coach. I don't remember, to be honest, details. We're young because we're the same age, but she had a really good kind of structure for her, and that's why she was better than the average swimmer, and she excelled there back then, and then also when she pursued her career, college swim career here, and like even the pro career.
So speaking of being an Egyptian national record holder, you're an Egyptian national record holder
Yeah.
yourself. And can you talk about your first experience breaking a national record and having that title next to your name, and what it means for you to go to meets now carrying that with you?
That's really a good question. I never thought I'd, break any Egyptian record, but it happened back in 2015, almost 10 years ago. Yeah, so I'm 100 breast. So I wasn't very fast in college when I went to Arizona. Like the first 2 years, um, it was like kind of a slow burn, trying to get used to everything, and like it just kind of popped off like third year, junior year, and did very well. That's when I broke the Egyptian record in 100 breast. I went from like 105 to like 102. Like I skipped a lot, and like it was like an eye opening for me. I'm like, oh, I can do this. And then for the next 2 years, I've been just like sewing meets, breaking Egyptian records, meet after meet. Um, And it was just like kind of interesting because I was like, it gave me more confidence. I'm like, okay, I can do that. And then I broke both short course, long course times, and then still like the current Egyptian record holder. I tried to retire once from the sport, but then nobody's really trying to chase me. I really wish um, the youngsters, would bring the competition up and like try to get me out of the sport, because no, I was just kidding. I'll swim as long as I want to. I've retired kind of. I had a soft retirement a couple of years ago, or like a year and a half ago. But I figured that I missed the sport. At some point you burn out. At some point, the sport is just like you're doing too much. Like you're just sick of it. When you want to go home, you want to live the ordinary life, which life's different after swimming. The average person would have a really different routine than like the swimmer, and you know how swimmers work. Whether they wake up every morning to go to practice or like have double practices or throw in weights and dry land with that. It's hectic. It's not easy schedule. So definitely it's also like very draining to the mind and brain, to keep doing that for years. And I've stopped. I've stopped for like few months, like maybe even like a year and a half. That was like, okay, I'm just gonna swim like 3 times a week, do this. I'm like, I'll be fine. But then I missed it, and I was like, okay, I want to get into that routine back because it's just like I feel like it's really healthy for my mind and my body. Um, you think that swimming is very stressful, right? And then the swim environment is very stressful, but then you go to the real world and like it's a lot more stressful there too. So you pick what you want to do, but I feel like yeah, for sure, um, swimming is part of my identity. I want to say. I don't know if there's any end soon. I'm still going. I actually just got back. I don't know if you know, but I was coaching college the last year and a half at Indiana. That's where I swam pro the last 4 years or so, and it was quite good experience for me. But I've moved on from this, and I decided that I'm gonna do finance and like go back to swimming again. And I've been trying to swim on a full schedule since the summer, which has been like it's been good. But also it's hard to stay consistent. But like I've been swimming at least once a day like I've been swimming once every day now for the past I want to say 4 months. So I'm trying to get like back into it again. To be like I don't want to be like the part-time swimmer. I want to be able to excel better than that and like maybe even go best times. It's just like not. I don't want to be too stressed about it. But at the same time, like I want to get into that more competition um, swimming and like just being part of the sport because I try to let go. It's not easy to let go.
It's something that I've seen a lot more of in the past 10 or so years. It used to be that like people would go to one Olympics or one or two Olympics and then just be done.
Yeah,
There was a few people in the 80s and 90s who sort of broke that mold, but it was traditionally the way things were done. And I feel like as technology's advanced, as there's been more options for like athlete recovery and stuff like that, that more and more people have stuck with the sport for a longer period of time. I
yeah,
mean, like Nicholas Santos was 42 when he retired, and he
yeah,
went out with a gold medal and almost broke his own world record in the 50 fly.
yeah.
So
That
there's
was awesome.
definitely been like people who can still stick with the sport.
Yeah, for sure. And swimming it's also might be hard for other people. That I'm giving you my perspective. And again, swimming is not a sport where you can if you're there for the money. I don't think it's for you. There's probably about 1% of pro swimmers can actually make a good living out of it. Um, but then it's hard. It's not easy because if you think about it, like in the U.S. is competition is so high. So like you've got the system of like doing of like qualifying people. It's I want to say it's fair and it's unfair for some countries or the other, but in the U.S. is very hard. If you don't make the Olympics, you can't really make much money here. You can't make a whole lot living and being an Olympian, you need to be swimming full time. It doesn't matter what you do outside the pool. I mean, you make sure like you don't like drain yourself out of the day. Like if you have a 9 to 5 job and like you're trying to swim, and you can make it work, but it's not gonna be ideal. So it's you pick what you want to do. But again, I think some people definitely have it harder than the others, especially with the qualifications. Like I feel like the U.S. is just like it's so hard to make it. Like if you make one time, if you back in the day, you could make the '96, the 2000, the 2004. But now what we're seeing is like people make the 2008, another people made the 2012, another people made the 2016, and like so on. And it's hard. It's like we see a lot of talent. The sport is evolving really too fast, especially on the younger age. So at some point, and I get it when people just go to one Olympics and they don't make the next one. It's easy to call it, call it a day. I'm like, okay, I'm done. That's it. You can hang up your suits and goggles, and like that's it. You don't need to do it anymore because it's hard. You think of the next cycle is like another 4 years, and then you've got on the other hand, like other smaller countries who can like qualify easily. Swimming is not big. The country is not doesn't have as many swimmers as like the U.S. And then they can just swim like 5, 6 Olympics back to back to back to back. So it's different. It's definitely plays with the rules and like how many swimmers you can get into the competition and all that system that they've got.
It's interesting that you bring up the U.S. qualification because there's so many events in the United States where people who are placing like fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth at nationals would make the final at a
Yeah,
World Championships or an Olympics. Like in the women's 200 backstroke at nationals last year, the eighth place swimmer was faster than the eighth place swimmer at World Championships.
yeah,
It's become so difficult to find that way to break in on the national team in the U.S. But at the same time, in like other countries and smaller swimming countries that have still a little bit more funding and a little bit more like focus on swimming, even if they don't have as much success. Like I think back to like Joseph Schooling when he beat Michael Phelps in 2016. Singapore gave him like $160,000 or something crazy like that.
yeah,
I might have the exact number wrong, but there's a lot of mainly just in like Europe and maybe in like Eastern Asia who can make a career out of it, but it's extremely rare to be able to swim with that longevity and only be able to swim and not have to do something else like have a full-time job in order
yeah.
to make ends meet.
Yeah, for sure. And at the end of the day, I tell you, like you need to make sure that, and that's why I decided, like you wanted to work some different, try to make more money, and then like try to enjoy the sport. Because if you're swimming under that burden of like trying to make money and like um, trying to just bear through with the circumstances, I'm like, oh, yeah, how am I gonna pay rent? Oh, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. It's not gonna be enjoyable for you to enjoy the sport. And like swimming, there's not much money, as I said. I know they started ISL league like a few years back that did not make it. Like it was expected. It's hard to get it funded. Swimming is like a classic sport. I don't think everybody enjoys swimming. I don't think if I was not a swimmer, I would enjoy swimming or watching swimming. Definitely maybe a 50 or 100, but it doesn't have the publicity that it needs. But again, when people like try to compare football or like soccer to swimming, it's not the same. Like team sports are way too different, and like the competition is a lot different. Team sports in general is just like would have better publicity and like they can have the audience. But again, like we don't swim for just the audience. You swim for you. When you swim, you actually really swim for you, not the money, not anyone else, just for you.
You talk about like that 1% of people who can make money off of it. It's really like probably in the U.S. at least, like Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky, Simone Manuel, and Caleb Dressel are like the only four people I can think of who probably make a decent amount of money off of swimming.
Yeah. I mean, some people use and like some. I think other people also can use swimming as like leverage, not just like entirely from the Olympic Committee or like the USA Swimming Organization or whatever. Like I think you've seen Cody Miller, like he makes good living. He's a good
Yeah.
friend. He makes good living from like YouTube and doing vlogs and all that stuff. So you can definitely use that also as leverage, but not a lot. Like I think he's probably the only person or like the only swimmer who does that in the world. I want to say some
I
people
think
say
like Michael Andrew does it,
yeah,
and I
Michael
think
Andrew
Daniel
does that
Whiffen,
too.
but not on the level of Cody Miller. Like he does a lot more.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. And like you've seen Cody's like careers just go up and down like this. Like last year when I was coaching, we used to swim together, and like he would swim like 3 times a week. But then he went 59 last summer, 100 breast, if I remember right. And then
Yeah,
he's training a little more again, back again, and like I think went to away, like in U.S. Open. So
yeah.
he's got a shot, and he's like 30. I want to say
He's
31.
like 31 or 32. It
Yeah,
would be
just
crazy
30.
if he made the Olympic team
Yeah,
again. It'd be so awesome.
and I'm rooting for him. Like I want to see him make it, because he's a good friend of mine. But like, he's a good example of like, people who actually took swimming as a leverage, not just entirely from winning medals and like, achieving certain certain accomplishments to do that. Like he's obviously great. He won the Olympics. He won like a bronze medal, I think, 2016. Didn't make the 2020, but he just did not sit at home and like decided like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna go get another job. He kept going, and I've known him since 2019, since I moved there in Indiana, like swam pro, and he's just like his energy is really good. And, like he knows how to talk. His vlogs are great. It's not anywhere that I go where people like tell me like I see you at the Cody Miller vlogs, and like he's got a good publicity even when I'm overseas, even when I go to World Championships. So that it's a thing that he should definitely be proud of, and like it's definitely helped him have a family and like create all the good things that he have now, and I'm happy for him, obviously. But again, it's like we talk about, yeah, people can make so much money from just like swimming and accomplishments. Um, you count on like three, four, and then like somebody like Cody can use it as like more again, as I said, leverage. It's just like teach people how Olympians train, how the schedule is. It's really good also to pick stuff from stuff like that. Like swimmers can pick certain aspects, ideas from like vlogs like Cody's or Michael Andrews, and like learn how to become an Olympian, how what it takes to be an Olympian, what it takes to get a medal, what it takes to be on a certain championship team. And I think it's good. But again, still we're still in the 1%. If we're
Yeah.
if the subject is money, we're still in the 1% of swimmers who actually make it.
There's a few people who in their time after swimming have been able to leverage their swimming career into a coaching job.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's a different animal entirely. Like that's like once you're done with the sport and you're no longer competing or practicing consistently. But
Yeah.
it's exceptionally difficult while you're swimming and competing to be able to be financially viable. But talking about Cody and like guys in their 30s making the Olympic team, there's a guy that I know who swims locally where I live, who you might have competed against, named Brandon
Brendan
Fisher.
Fisher. I know.
It would be. It's just they got the
Oh,
idea in my mind. It would be crazy, be so awesome if two guys in their 30s made the Olympic team in the 100 breast this summer.
Brandon is a great example of resiliency. Like I think he swam for Wyoming. He's way older than me. I think he's probably 36, 35, somewhere there.
He's 36, right? I think.
Yeah. So he's approaching his 40s, right? I mean, still 4 years away. But I think 4 years ago, when he was just 30 or 32, maybe, I've seen him swim a 5900 breaststroke, right? And at a Clovis meet in California. And that was just like, oh my God, like I could not believe. I used to compete against him all the time, and like we were at the same level. And I've always been trying to break the minute. I couldn't still break the minute, but it was great to see somebody accomplish that dream that you wanted to do. And I don't want to say he had a worse circumstances, but he didn't have, because I talk to him sometimes. We do some clinics together in California, but I've talked to him. He didn't have the best college career, as far as I know. I don't know the details of it, but he wasn't as fast as he wanted to be, and he kept going after college. And like he was like started swimming more professionally with a club team, and he works full time engineer. He's a full time engineer, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, So he's making it work, right? So uh, and part of it, he told me like it's just like a lot of mental. It took him a lot of mental training to get to the point that he can believe that he can achieve, something that it's out of reach for him. For me to say I want to go 59 or better, it's a long shot. It's not easy because I know I'm like, you know, uh, at least my mind know that I'm so busy, trying to make trying to work, make money, and like there's the stress of life, and like it's just life gets in the way. So sometimes your mind's gonna tell you, "Oh, you can't do it. You're not 100% prepared." He knows how to do this better. Like he knows how to make sure that even if he's doing all these ventures in his life, whether work or other stuff that he's up to, like he knows when it's time to swim, he's actually giving it all. He's actually like not thinking about anything else, and I really applaud him for doing that. Like it's great. I try to be like him. He's actually a really good example of. And I told him like I think maybe a year ago or so. I told him like you keep me going, man. Like I see you swim, and when I'm this close to think about retirement, I'm like, no, I'm like, I can still go. I can do this the rest of my life. And it's, if it makes you happy, it makes you happy. Again, and like right now, I'm not swimming for times. I want to get back into the groove of like, oh, okay, let's try to get like a certain cut or so. Um, but I know it's like when you take some time off, you need to earn your base back, and you need to earn your the effort, and then like show the effort to earn, what you want or like what you deserve.
I actually like he practices at my college pool.
Oh,
So
nice.
all the time last year, I would getting out of practice, and I'd watch him swim, and he's like an animal in the water. Like I've never seen somebody so dialed in. Like he is singularly minded when he is in the pool on what he is doing. It's amazing to watch.
You said it, dialed in. He's always dialed in. Even we did a clinic back in I think last Thanksgiving, and it was just watching him swim. It's just like even when he's showing it to the kids, he's so dialed in. He's like he's doing it like he's swimming his lifetime best at a race, which is like it was great for me to watch. And he's a really good, nice. He's I want to say a nice kid. He's a nice man. I was gonna say nice kid, but he's a nice man. I see him all the time at swim meets. I see him at clinics. Sometimes we work together. He's a good dude.
He actually like a positive memory I've got with him is back in 2019. I think like the week after he came back from that Clovis meet where he broke a minute,
Yeah,
he gave me I wear the Swedish goggles, like the ones with no like rubber padding or
yeah.
anything,
Those are
and
tough.
he gave me like a bag of like 20 of them that I still have that I still use. I haven't bought a new pair of goggles in like 5 years.
Nice. Yeah, I can't wear these, but those are tough. But yeah, nice.
So, sort of jumping over to a different topic of the qualification process for Egypt in the U.S. and Australia and Great Britain, and like the standard that people know is like you have a trials and then you qualify and you go to this meet or you go to the Olympics or you go on this travel trip. But it's something that, and another thing that I've always loved learning about is what's the qualification process like in Egypt for going to a World Championships or an Olympics or any sort of international meet?
So for you asked for Egypt, so I'm gonna answer for Egypt, but I can answer for other countries as well. So for Egypt, our time standards is the same. They're not different than U.S., Australia. So the World Aquatics, or formerly FINA, they put standards, right, for every meet, whether World Championships and the Olympics. But usually you have an A cut and then a B cut. If you have two swimmers qualify from each country in a certain event, both of those should have an A cut, right? So some countries actually they don't consider A or B cut. They can send like one swimmer, one male, one female, and that's what we see all the time. Especially with like more like third world countries or countries with, in Africa or like the Middle East, or not very resourceful, or like swimming is not big. They're trying to introduce the sport. They're allowed to send like a male and a female. With Egypt, it's not that case. You need to get the A cut. So since we have swimmers actually achieve the A cut, you always have to be the get the A cut to get like in the meet, with the World Championships or the Olympics. So the qualification standards is just as the same for the just as the same as like the big countries or like big swim countries like the US, Australia, or you name it. I think it's just the level of competition is a lot different because for us we're competing with times. Especially if I'm the Egyptian record holder, I know that the person behind me is like, let's say, a second or two behind me. I know he's not my competition. My competition is the time, the A cut, the A standard, right? For US swimmers, it's not the A standard because they let's say there's 10 swimmers above the A standard. Now they're competing for spots. So like they need like the top two spots only can make it. The process is kind of the same. I guess the competition is less. Just as number of swimmers, like you're competing against is like a lot easier because just competing, just to attain the time. But the times now are like crazy fast. Like every time we see like the A cuts, it's just like getting faster and faster. Like I don't know where the sport's gonna go, but the A cuts are definitely not like we've seen in the U.S. trials. Also, the last U.S. trials, nobody got the 400 free A cut, but one
Yeah.
person. And then they had to do the time trial. I don't remember the swimmer
It
who
was
did
Jake Mitchell.
Jake Mitchell. Yeah, he was swimming
That was a
Michigan.
pretty legendary swim that he did.
Yeah, he did a really good swim, right? But then now we're seeing the U.S. like not that the U.S. is struggling to get 10 to A cuts, but that's like a sign that the A cuts are too fast when something like this happened. Because I think that was the first time in history that something like this happened. And then like you go to Olympics, it's kind of the same. World Championships, if you get the B cut, you might go. But our federation has been like consistently asking for A cut to qualify, which is like pretty fast. We don't usually have a big team who make the A cuts, probably like 6, 7 people. And then like I think Japan, we had like 8 people maybe make the A cut. But then in the Olympics, you need to get the A cut. If you get the B cut, you don't go anywhere. It comes with the quota and the number of swimmers that they want in the Olympics, which I always question. Because like back in the day, used to be like if you want to swim in the Olympics, you can just if you're the top swimmer in your country, you got the B cut, you can go, you can qualify, right? It's not the same anymore. Like you can't. There's a number of swimmers that they can invite. I think 2012, that's where they introduced this rule where there's like I think 927 swimmers in 2012. They reduced that number to, I could be wrong, but with the exact number, but I think that's the range. 2016, they reduced that number to,
It was somewhere in the 800s, I think.
900, and then like 2020 was 887, and now we're like 860. So they keep like cutting. But my problem is with the Olympic Committee is like out of these 860 swimmers, and that's why like I think it's not fair. It's just because they invite a lot of they call it universality places, like swimmers who don't get A cut or B cut, but they're the fastest in their country. I think they invite like a male and a female, and they eat a lot of the spots. They're like I think half of the spots are for these swimmers, and then you got the relay swimmers. So like there's already 600 people, 600 something that they call it the universality places, countries who don't attain A or B cuts, and then the relay swimmers, they eat 600. So you're left out with like close to 300 people with 300 A cutters, and that's it. You can have more than that, which for me is just like it's kind of crazy. Because I don't mean any offense to people who don't like or swimmers who don't like attain A or B cuts. I have total respect to them, but I'd feel like I would not count them from the spots or like the quota that the FINA issues every 4 years or the Olympic Committee does, because for me like they're taking that opportunity from a swimmer who is swimming at a higher level and deserves to be at the Olympics, right? But he can't go because he didn't. He was so close to the A cut, and he didn't make it. I was always close to the A cut. Like I never made the Olympic team. Just I made the B cut, and I was very close 2016, like few tenths, and they didn't take me. And I remember it was devastating. I was crying, dude. I was like, back then the A cut was like 005 or something, and I was 2 tenths, 3 tenths away. I was really sad. And then at the same time, you look I was sad because I was looking. I'm like, oh, this person, he didn't have to try as hard as I tried, and go. And like, I'm not mad at this person. I'm kind of mad at the rule and like how because I think I'm not an Olympian, but I think I swim at an Olympic level. Like I think I could classify as an Olympic swimmer because if I would swim
Yeah.
the 100 meters in Rio in 2016, I probably would have been like in the top 20 because that was my ranking or something. But that's not how they take swimmers. Like that's not how they.
It's
Uh,
almost as if there should be like a quota for swimmers who hit the FINA A and B cuts, and then the universality swimmers
yeah,
to make
yeah,
sure that everybody gets included.
exactly, and that's the thing. And I know the Olympics is about like bringing the world together, right? But you want to also watch like fast swimming as well. So I don't know how this would hurt. Like I'm not part of the Olympic Committee to tell you like how this affects, the sport or like maybe it's a budgeting issue. I don't know, but that only started in 2012 because
It honestly might be partially, and this is just, I have no concrete like evidence of this, but it might be partially people have been watching the Olympics less and less over the past like 10 years.
yeah,
So it might be partially due to funding and just not having enough people watching, but like at the
yeah,
same time, they're making millions
yeah, I know they
off of the
are.
Olympics each
Yeah,
time.
yeah, for sure. And for me, it's just like because some and I feel bad, but like some of the swimmers that go there on university places, they don't know how to swim, right? And it's hard to see that. I mean, like I feel bad for them for some point. At some point, like I'm like, it's not like I'm embarrassed for them. I feel bad, and then at the same time, I'm like, why would if why would FINA or the World Aquatics do that? Like, why don't you try to fund these countries if you really want to help evolve the sport, build pools, and they can. I'm sure they do have they can create the budget for it, right? Instead of wasting all that time on like, sorry, all that money on like travel and like funding these teams, because usually the university places are usually funded by the Olympic Committee. They're not funded
Yeah.
uh, by their own nations. They got a budget, especially if the country can't afford it. Like there's a lot of African countries that can't afford, sending a lot of athletes. So like it's a lot of bills that they may not be able to do. Uh, the U.S. is like, you live here is very fortunate. That's not fortunate everywhere in the world. And it's just like, it's crazy to me. Like, why don't we just try to fund, you know, providing resources for these countries to like learn how to swim, right? Learning how to swim in the Olympics is not fixing the issue. And like, you're telling me, oh, we're just trying to bring the world together. Well, yeah, you should bring all the world together, but you should bring all the world together, at least swimmers who can swim. Because like, it just doesn't make any sense for me. Like when I look at like, it's like somebody's asking me, hey, can I start doing private lessons with you, right? And let's say he's one from one of these countries, right? He swims for a country that they allow one swimmer and they don't have any swimmers, right? And I teach him for like a month. Hey, I'm gonna teach you for a month, and like it's not gonna be enough time to teach him how to swim, properly. He can float, he can do a little bit, right? But I look at him like you've been swimming for a month, right? I've been swimming for 22 years. Like I'm trying to reach that goal, and I think I'm more qualified than you to go to the Olympics, and that's what makes me really mad. But at the same time, it also like it gives me that perspective. Like, come on, go get the freaking A cut. Like I need to go swim under a minute. I'm like, I don't need to worry about all that stuff. But again, this is like the politics side that I might not entirely agree with, but again, I could know less. I again, you said you don't know the concrete of uh, the foundation and like how things work. I'm in the same boat. I don't know their problems to speak for them. But that's in terms of qualification, if that's what we're talking about.
And I think it's interesting too, like FINA or World Aquatics and the Olympic Committee, they talk about this like wanting to bring the world together and wanting to bring people together and bring and get more opportunities. And you kind of hit the nail right on the head of like building pools in these countries that don't have access to good swimming infrastructure. That does way more while still while still bringing them to the Olympics and giving them that opportunity. But building those pools gives them way more opportunity for after that's happened, they can continue going.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember there was like an inspirational like story or a video that I watched about like somebody who I don't know which country in Africa, uh, might be
Oh,
somewhere in
is it
Central
Eric
Africa.
Musambani?
Yeah, Eric Masambani, yeah. And then he was training in like a 50-meter pool, and then I think the first time that he saw an Olympic pool was like that day he swam the 100 fly or 100 free, I don't 100 free, I
It
believe.
was 100 free, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's just too wide for me to like. This is not for me, and no offense to him, it's not inspiration. This is sad. You know what I'm saying?
I think he actually kept swimming after that. I don't remember the exact details of it, but I think he ended up getting some sort of funding to be able to swim in like an actual like
Yeah, pool.
facility in
Yeah,
a pool after
yeah.
that,
I
but I
think
don't
he's a
remember
swim
what
coach
ended up
now,
happening.
or he became a swim coach there. I don't know which country he's from, but wait, I get it. Like inspiration and everything, but at the same time, like I feel bad more than anything, and like I feel bad for myself too. Like, come on, my ego tell me you deserve to be there. Like, you can't just not make the Olympics. But hey, you know, you can't control everything that other people do. You can only control what you do. At the end of the day, if it takes to get the A cut, just go grind and get the A cut. In the story, you don't have to think
So,
about it.
Yusuf, having been around on the national team for this long, and having been on all these teams and world championship teams and traveled around, can you talk about when you were younger? And you talked about like now there's nobody really like coming up to challenge and like nobody really that's getting close to those times that you've set. Can you talk about when you were younger? Was there anybody really on the Egyptian national team who served as like a mentor for you, or like somebody who kind of guided you in those first experiences?
To be honest, not really. I didn't. Again, I made my first team. I made was World Juniors. World Juniors was like a new event. wasn't like wasn't like it's been there for years. So I made the first juniors team, uh, and then I made the senior team like 2 years later and like beat everybody. There are a few people that I looked up to, but it wasn't that we lived in the same city or like I knew what they're doing. When I traveled to the US, I knew that I wanted to beat everybody and like be better than the person I was yesterday. And like I worked on that the evolution of myself to become a better swimmer. And I think I succeeded, but I feel it was a bit too late. Not too late, but I feel like I missed on years that I could have developed something good. But again, that comes with like the environment that I talked about it at first, at the beginning of this podcast. Um, I never had goals to like make national teams or like world championships. And it's just like it happened. And I was like, oh, wow, I can actually do something great out of this. I feel like it was a little too late because I didn't get good at swimming, until, you know, I was 20 or like 19 or so. So I feel like that area when I was developing 12 all the way to 19, I feel like I should have done better. But I didn't know much. Like, it's not like I come from a family where like swimmers or like know a lot about swimming. But now I have definitely better perspective of what it takes, to become a swimmer. And I do a lot of private lessons as a side hustle here in Arizona. And, I do clinics as well. And I feel like I'm one way or the other making an impact. And I can tell the kids, like, you have way better opportunity, way more resources than I had when I was younger. So take advantage of it. Because even if they're not thinking of it, it's gonna help them a lot. Whether you want to get a scholarship, you want to do this, you want to do that, you want to go a certain time, you want to make a certain team, it's gonna definitely help you, right? And then I wish I had somebody when I was younger who could guide me, but I didn't. But now I feel like I'm making that impact for the sport. Um, I did the same thing with the college swimming. It's just college swimming is different when you're coaching there. It's like a slow burn. You need to wait longer to make money. I just don't have the patience for it, at least for now. Kind of was worried about, like, not worried, but I wanted to have my whole life was just doing swimming, 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 and I just wanted to get out of my comfort zone, do something different, and like still be doing swim stuff like swim lessons and clinics, and I just love it. Like, usually my weekends are all for swim lessons, and I like seeing swimmers try to challenge themselves to be better, and like I love that I'm helping them do that. Like it definitely feels good.
You know, you talked about those private lessons, and obviously I haven't had the same level of swimming success as you have. Just swam for my local community college team, but I absolutely love that feeling of seeing athletes that you've done private lessons with succeed and accomplish new things that they didn't even think they could do. Like
Yeah,
I've had like kids who are like as young as like 3 or 4 years old who now are swimming like the 400 IM, and I mean
nice.
they're like now they're like 11, 12, 13, so it's been a
Hey,
while. But it just for me, even though I'm not coaching them anymore, it gives you that sense of pride of like you set
uh,
somebody on a path where
yeah,
they're doing these great things.
like I made you become this. So
Yeah.
I'm just kidding. I mean, you definitely like leave a footprint in their lives or like their careers, at least some career, and like it's a good thing. You know, people will remember you like doing that for them, regardless of how much money you make from swim lessons. It's just like it feels good to serve somebody that way. You know, help him shape his career, you know, swim career, and like be part of like this maybe potential, you know, Olympic hopeful, Olympic gold medalist, NCAA champion, NCAA qualifier, you know, a conference qualifier, whatever the accomplished is. Like it's just a great thing. Sorry.
No worries. Well, yeah, you talk about that, like that impact that you can have, and like a great example I can think of is I was at Costco with my mom, and a kid who I'd done one swim lesson with like 6 months prior had come up and like been so excited to see me and been like, "Hi, coach, hi," and I didn't remember him at all, but he
Uh,
remembered me like 6 months later.
yeah.
So it's amazing the memories that people can make and how they like stick with them and like be appreciative of the time that like you've invested into them.
Oh, for sure. It definitely, it's a good feeling. Like, you make an impact on their lives, or like
Yeah.
at least their careers, and it's a great feeling.
So Yusuf, my last thing for you before we wrap things up here is at the end of every interview, I always give time for people to promote something or talk about something or just anything they want. It could be a sponsorship. You can plug your Instagram, which will be in the description of this video. Um, and weirdly, lately, like the past like 5 interviews I've done, people have talked about football a lot, like plug their favorite football teams. So that's
Yeah.
been a common theme, I guess. But the floor is yours to basically just talk about whatever you want.
I'm not big on sports. I definitely watch soccer. The African Cup of Nations going on now. Egypt's not doing very well. So I'll promote that. Go Egypt. I hope to beat I think Cape Verde on Monday. We'll see if we do. But as far as like other, I don't really watch all the sports, maybe soccer every now and then. But it's just a piece of advice I'd give any youngsters or you know watching this podcast or would watch it. Like take advantage of the resources you've got. Don't try to waste them, especially in our world now. You've got access to everything. You know, clinics, swim lessons. You know, mentors, teammates. Try to be better. Don't waste your time, because trust me, there's not much in the sport. Out of like getting a good scholarship, if you can, that's pretty much it. So use this for your advantage, right? If you think of if you're if you want to make it a college, think of like you want to take student loans or like you want to swim for free or and take to go sorry go to school for free and swim. So definitely take pay attention to the detail, you know, and try to truly take advantage of all the resources that you've been given, whether from your coaches, you know, from uh, your fitness trainer, your personal trainer, anything you've got, is a blessing. A lot of people have it like way harder, and you see the world is not a good place now. So just try to take advantage of all the little things that you've got, because somewhere in the world it's not available, and that's pretty much it.
I think those are some really wise words to leave us with. Yusuf.